how many of you have been there? It's all too familiar. Good morning, welcome to the garden. I'm glad you're with us on this beautiful summer day. And it is officially summer now, as Beth mentioned. I doubt that we think about it most of the time, but it seems that things have always been busy and hectic in life, even 2,000 years ago. At least that's what the Bible passage that we have from Mark's Gospel seems to indicate today. Let's look at it. The apostles then rendezvoused with Jesus and reported on all they had done and taught. Jesus said, "Come off by yourselves. Let's take a break and get a little rest." For there was constant coming and going. They didn't even have time to eat. So they got in the boat and went off to a remote place by themselves. Well, it sounds like the friends of Jesus were having all kinds of craziness in their life, and they were so busy and there was so much going on that they didn't have chance to get something to eat. I know workplaces where that same thing happens today, where there are so many deadlines and so many things that people have to do, meetings to attend, that there's no time to take a break and go get a bite of lunch, unless you get a little bit at sitting at your desk sometime. But there's no way to get away at all. So those hazards of the workplace have always seemed to be evident, even throughout the ages. I read about a survey that was conducted about a year ago now. It was conducted by the Stress Institute that is based in Atlanta, Georgia. And the survey asked workers how many of them were planning to take time off, time away from work, in the next 6 months. 39.8% said that they were going to do that. That was an all-time low, a 28-year low since they've been doing this survey. 57% of the folks said that they were going to take time off, but they weren't going to take all of the vacation time that they had actually earned. And 98% of them said that if they were away, they were going to check in with work. So it seems really difficult in our society to really take any time away. But that's not the way it is in the rest of the world. Of the 20 most developed countries, all of them have time off. All of them have considerable time off. In Europe, for example, there are 20 to 30 guaranteed by law days off for workers a year. And Canada, which is probably the closest to us in lifestyle and culture, guarantees 10 days off for all of its workers. So, we're way behind the curve in terms of taking the time that we have coming, using that time to take a break in life. And let me tell you, there are some real downsides, we know this, to constantly being at work or at our normal routine and never getting a break from it. There's all kinds of things like stress and burnout. We can get ill physically, emotionally, mentally. And certainly it can even jeopardize our future and careers in terms of jobs. Kathleen Hall of the Stress Institute said this: "Taking a vacation is not a luxury, it's a necessity. If you don't have the opportunity to relax and reflect, you get stressed. And chronic stress is the driver of most diseases: heart disease, obesity, insomnia." Well, Jesus on some level at least seemed to understand that, because he suggested to his friends that they get in the boat and go away a little bit and get off by themselves. And they did that. Now, the crowds found out where they were and eventually surrounded them again, but we can hope that they did in fact get some time apart, a little respite from the hectic pace that they had been keeping. We need to take a break from the hectic pace that we keep in our lives, however that is, however we would describe it. It's the healthy thing to do. It's always good to get away from what we typically do every day, because that gives us a fresh eyes with which to see when we return, if we've experienced different things and tried different things. It gives us an opportunity to get rest and renewed and to get some energy and enthusiasm going again. And it certainly helps our relationships, family and friend relationships. Someone has said, "Time off is medicine," and indeed it is. Probably the closest I could come, at least, to thinking about something that would help us think about what it's like to be away from our normal routine is thinking what it was like as a kid to get out of school at the end of the year. I remember those days just vividly. Even as a teacher, I remember those days, because it was like Oh, no more homework, no papers to write, no tests to take, no more reading that has to be done by a certain time. It was this sense of abandon and freedom that was just absolutely delightful. In fact, I saw a family circus cartoon a while back that had Billy lying on his back looking up at the clouds, and he said, if summer had Christmas, it would be perfect. And indeed, it probably would. That would make everything just absolutely ideal. Well, I was thinking back to something that one of my former colleagues at St. Luke's in the old days had written. David G. Owen was is a brilliant man, and was quite a good writer and a good theologian. And he imagined at one point what God might have been thinking when an Indiana summer was created. This is what he wrote. Between the urgent labors of seed time and harvest, I will stretch summer. I will turn up the heat and humidity so human beings are not tempted to work as hard as usual. I'll make the sun rise earlier and the day linger longer. I'll invent swimming and picnics and girls' softball. I'll encourage children to play and adults to slow their pace. I'll invite humans to enjoy life more when it is summer. Okay, yesterday, first day of summer. It is officially summer. How are we doing with that? If I had to guess, I would guess we're not doing very well, most of us. What we really need is a Sabbath. You may remember in the first creation story in Genesis, it said that on the seventh day, God rested. The word that literally means rested means to draw breath or to catch one's breath. A Sabbath is a time down. It's a time when we can catch our breath, when we can let go of some of the stress that we experience normally in life, when we can get away from the routine things in life. We need a Sabbath, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You see, God even got into the act because we're told that when the Ten Commandments were handed down to Moses, that one of those was honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. And we're in fact to do that. We don't do that very well, most of us. I remember again as a child growing up in a little small town in southern Indiana that on Sunday everything was closed. You couldn't go to a gas station, you couldn't go to a grocery store, you couldn't do any shopping. Everything was closed. We really honored that day. It was a time to be with family and friends. But that isn't the case anymore. So how do we get a break? How do we really get ourselves away from this pace that we keep and get a chance to renew and get refreshed in one way or another? How do we go about taking, an hour or a half a day and experience some time away, maybe a mini vacation if we can't take a full vacation? Well, I read several articles that talked about how we can build breaks into our day and into our lives. One of them had to do with thinking about taking a breath. Now, I was in the process of putting this message together, and I was actually writing about the kind of thing that we're experiencing because I was stressed. I had a time deadline there. I had a meeting I had to get ready for and go to, and I was, just pressed in trying to get this whole thing together. It wasn't flowing very well. I was frustrated. And I read something that was written by Etty Hillesum, and she said this: sometimes the most important thing in a whole day is the rest we take between two deep breaths, or the turning inwards in prayer for 5 short minutes. It's what I needed to hear right at that time. And I practiced what she talked about. And it did make a difference. At least I think some difference. You'll have to judge whether it made any difference, significant or not. But it made some difference, at least for me. I'll tell you something else that helps me. We have 2 cats in our household. And I work at home a lot of the time. And I'm often in my office, I'm often on my laptop, and I'm working away there. And one or the other of the cat inevitably comes in to visit me. And they don't just come in and leave. They don't ever breeze in and breeze out. Cats don't do that, I think. And they are experts at walking across my computer and destroying anything I've been working on, or they like to lie down on the computer itself. It makes it a little hard to work when you've got a cat lying on your computer. And then one or the other, the big cat with the great purr is the one that likes to be on my shoulder, and he'll reach across and get up on my shoulder. Or the other little cat actually is a lap cat. and likes to be on my lap. And so if I'm in the right frame of mind and if I know I really need this, I will just kind of stop, let the cat on my shoulder or the cat on my lap just purr, and I'll just pet them and hold on to them for a while and think they knew I needed a break. And so I try to take advantage of it. I don't know, maybe your pets will do the same thing for you. It's important, I think, to pay attention to those little signs that maybe we need to have a break in our daily routine and whatever we're doing. There are other things we can do as well. Sometimes it just helps to go outdoors and get a breath of fresh air. It doesn't have to be anything involved or difficult. Just going out and seeing the world around us, even for just a couple of minutes, it can help tremendously. Lynn Sweet, in his book, The Jesus Prescription for a Healthy Life, stresses the importance of what he calls coming apart so we don't come apart. What he means by that is getting away, getting a break, getting something different in our lives so we don't fall apart at the seams. And that can be any number of things. It can be taking a walk in the woods, or it can be sitting by a stream or by a lake. It can be all those kinds of things. But it's just important that we take those breaks, that we do what we can to interrupt that normal hectic pace and slow down a little bit. I read something else that a mother talked about. She was talking about what went on in their household. And they have what she called a screen Sabbath. 1 day a week for a 24-hour period, no screens are on in their household. No TV, no computer, no smartphones, nothing like that. It's time that they get to interact with one another. They're not looking for anyone or anything else to entertain them. They're looking to one another to get to know one another better and to experience that time. We are all different. We'll have to name for ourselves what helps us take those mini vacations in life. It may be going for a walk or going for a run. It could be having a cup of tea and letting it soothe our spirits, or getting involved in some athletic endeavor and generating some energy within us. Maybe it's taking a nap or reading a book, or maybe it's prayer or meditation or yoga. I don't know what it is. I only know that it needs to be. We need to find a way to give ourselves a break because we need to rest. We need to take a break. We need to get our spirits renewed. If we do that, I guarantee you it will make a difference.